ball once the entire game. Just once. And that one touch changes everything. Here's what they know that you don't. I've been watching football this World Cup season, and something caught my attention that I couldn't shake off. There are players, not the stars, not the ones the cameras follow, players on the bench, players on the special team, players whose name you never hear them announce, and they play an entire game, 90 minutes, sometimes more, and they touch the ball only once, just once. One pass received, one header, one clearance, one shot, one save. And that one touch, that single moment defines the entire game. Maybe it even defines their season, maybe even their entire career. But here's what hit me as I watched. That player didn't show up that day. That player had trained. They've studied the game. They've run drills at 6 a.m. when no one was watching. They've ice-baited injuries no one knew about. They've sat on benches, game after game, waiting for a moment that might never come. And when the moment came, they were ready. They didn't freeze. They didn't hesitate. They didn't second guess. They touched the ball once and they changed the game. Listen closely, friends. Some of you are living in that waiting season right now, and it's hard. You've been faithful. You've been consistent. You've been showing up at your job, showing up in your marriage, showing up with your kids, showing up in your quiet times with God. And nothing seemed to be moving. Nothing. Nothing seemed to be breaking through. Nothing. You feel like that player on the bench. You know you're good enough. You know you're called. You know there's something inside you that the world hasn't seen yet. You know. But the moment hasn't arrived. The moment hasn't come yet. And the waiting is wearing you down. It's taking its toll on you. I know, and I hear you. The waiting is where most people quit, though. Not because they are weak, because they mistake silence for absence. You think because you're not seeing any visible signs, then nothing is happening. But that's the lie. Listen to me, friends. The lie says your waiting is wasted. The lie says the years in the background were lost years. The lie says if your moment mattered, it would have come by now. But let me tell you the truth. Preparation is never wasted. Never. That player who touches the ball once, the reason they were ready isn't because they're special. It's because they decided something in the dark that no one could see. They decided, I'll be ready, whether the moment comes or not. They didn't train for the moment. They trained for the person the moment would require. That is the difference, my friends. That is the difference. Some of you have been praying for the opportunity, but God has been building the person who can carry the opportunity. Because here's what we forget. An unprepared person destroys the opportunity they've been praying for. You've seen it. Someone gets the promotion they were not ready for. It breaks them. Someone gets the platform they hadn't built the character for, and it corrupts them. God isn't withholding your moment. He's protecting you from a moment you weren't ready to carry. Let me show you this in the scripture. Look at David. Before David ever touched Goliath, he was a shepherd boy, alone, on a hillside with the sheep. No audience, no cameras, no prophet came to watch him. No king came to check on him. Just David and the sheep and the lions and the bears. Do you know what David was doing in the field? He was training for a moment he didn't know was coming. He told Saul, the Lord who delivered me from the paws of the lion and the paws of the bear, he can deliver me from the hands of this Philistine. David didn't learn courage in front of Goliath. He learned courage in front of the lion, in front of the bear, in the dark, in the silence, in the waiting. He learned courage. His one touch, that single stone, was a product of years of preparation no one saw. One throw, one moment, and it changed the trajectory of an entire nation. But the throw didn't make David. The throw only revealed David. The years on the hillside, the years with the sheep, they made David. So here's what I want to say to you, friends. Some of you are on the bench right now, and you're frustrated, and I understand. But the bench is not a punishment. The bench is a classroom. The bench is where you learn what the spotlight never teaches. Humility, patience, discipline, endurance. The bench is where you discover whether you love the game or you just love the applause. Because the player who only loves the applause, they quit in the waiting. They grow bitter. They grow cold. They stop training even. And then the moment comes and they are found wanting. They're not ready. But the player who loves the game, they keep training. They keep running. They keep studying. They keep praying. They keep showing up. Not because the moment is guaranteed, but because the preparation is the assignment. Your assignment right now is not the moment. Your assignment is the preparation. And if you're faithful in the dark, God will be faithful in the light. Let me tell you something, friends. Your one touch is coming. I don't know what it looks like for you. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe it's a door that has been locked for years that suddenly opens. Maybe it's a word you speak to your son at the right time. Maybe it's a decision you make under pressure that will change the direction of your family for generations. But your one touch is coming. And when it comes, you will be ready. Not because you're special, not because you're lucky, but because you didn't waste the waiting. Because you trained in the dark. Because you prayed in the silence. Because you kept showing up when no one was watching and no one was clapping and no one was calling your name. You kept showing up. Your one touch is coming. And it will be worth every second of the wait. Subscribe to Built for More with Matt Miller for truth that will change your life. And friends, don't despise the waiting. Don't waste the bench. Your moment is coming. When it comes, the world will see what God was building all along. Thank you so much, friend, for your time. Thank you for your support. You have a great day. Bye for now. Everyone is asking who the GOAT is. Messi or Ronaldo? I'm not here to settle that debate. I'm here to ruin it. Because the question itself is the problem. And until you understand why you keep measuring yourself against the wrong person. The World Cup is alive. Oh yeah, you can feel it. The stadiums are full, packed out, nations holding their breath. Flags are in windows, argument in every group chat. Everyone has a side. Everyone has their seat. Everyone has their evidence. And at the center of it all, the same debate we've had for 20 years. Messi or Ronaldo? It's on your timeline. It's in your office, in the comments, in the barbershop, in the user groups at 2 a.m. And I've been watching, not just the games, I've been watching the players. And something hit me and it has stayed with me all through this World Cup period. These two men, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they've given more of their lives to this game than most of us will ever give to anything. They've given more time, more energy, more sacrifice, more discipline, more years, more of themselves to the game. And the world has reduced all of that, all of it, to a pick one debate. But here's what I want to say to you today. You're not watching two men compete against each other. No. You're watching two men compete against themselves. And friends, that's a completely different story. Let me ask you to imagine something. Imagine you're 13 years old, not 13 with a dream, 13 with a suitcase. You hug your parents goodbye, knowing you won't wake up in that same house tomorrow. You bought a plane to a country you've never lived in before. You don't speak the language. You don't know the streets. You don't know the people. The only thing you're carrying that makes sense is a round, leather-wrapped football. That wasn't a movie. That was Lionel Messi's life. At 10 years old, the doctors told him that his body wasn't developing normally. He had a growth hormone deficiency, and the treatment that was needed was simply not affordable by his family. Then an opportunity came up. Barcelona will help, but there was a price. Leave home, leave your family, leave everything you know, everything that is familiar. At 13 years old, Messi chose uncertainty over comfort. Not because he knew he would become the greatest. He didn't. He chose it because there was something inside him that was stronger than fear. Football wasn't something he just enjoyed. It was something he couldn't walk away from. And that's the part most people forget. We celebrate the trophies. We replay the goals. We watch the Ballon d'Ors. We watch the World Cup highlights. But none of this moment began inside the stadium. They began with a frightened teenager deciding one day or one more day of sacrifice was worth it. Then, one day, then another day, then another day. For more than 20 years, Messi has kept making the same decision to show up, to refine, to improve, to chase mastery when everyone else would have settled for greatness. People call it talent. I don't. Friends, talent may open a door, but talent doesn't keep walking through it for 2 decades. What you're watching isn't simply one of the most gifted footballers in history. You're watching the compound effect of thousands of different days that nobody applauded. Thousands of days there were no cameras. One decision repeated for 20 years. That isn't just talent, that's commitment. That's identity. That's a promise he made to himself and never stopped keeping. Let me switch gear to CR7. Ronaldo grew up in a one-room house in Madeira, Portugal. 4 children, 1 room. A father who struggled with alcoholism, a family that didn't have enough. He told himself a story. He told himself, I'm going to be the best player in the world. Not one of the best, the best. People laughed. His accent was mocked at Sporting's academy. His teammates teased him. He was a kid from the island who dreamed too loud. He worked harder. Ronaldo is famous to this day for training after training is over. When the lights go down, when other players have gone home, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, he's still there. 500 sit-ups a day, ice bath at midnight, body composition that will make a light athlete half his age uncomfortable. At 41 years old, 41, he still carries fitness levels that defies explanation. He did not become Ronaldo because he was born that way. He became Ronaldo because he decided again and again and again to outperform the person he was yesterday. Not outperform Messi, but himself. And here's where the whole debate falls apart. Messi is not trying to beat Ronaldo. Ronaldo is not trying to beat Messi. They are both trying to outperform themselves. Messi's obsession is not Ronaldo's trophy cabinet. Messi's obsession is, can I pass the ball better? Can I create the chance I didn't create before? Can I be more today than I was yesterday? Ronaldo's obsession is not Messi's Ballon d'Or count. Ronaldo's obsession is, can I defy this body one more season? Can I score what my younger self couldn't score? Can I make the world say, whoa, that's impossible, and then do it anyway and do it again? Friends, they are both goats, just different goats. Messi is the goat of vision, of touch, of the impossible dribble in the impossible space. Ronaldo is the goat of will, of power, of the sheer breathtaking refusal to accept limitation. Different gifts, different expression, same obsession. The obsession to outdo their past. And friends, that is the only competition that actually matters. Because here's the truth we've been hiding from. Comparing yourself to someone else is easy, it's comfortable. You can always find a reason to stop. You can always say, well, they had advantages I didn't have. But when you're competing against yourself, there's nowhere to hide, no excuses, no comparison, just you and the person you were yesterday. Paul said in Philippians chapter 3, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. Not comparing myself to the person in the next lane, not measuring my trophies against their trophies, forgetting what is behind and pressing on towards what is ahead. Paul wasn't running someone else's race. Paul was running his own calling, his own assignment, his own finish line. That was his focus. And that is the exact posture of Messi and Ronaldo at this World Cup. They are not here to settle a debate. They are not here to settle a score. They are here to press on, to strain towards what is ahead, to give everything that is left with everything they've built. And when I see that, when I really see that, I can't pick one. I see 2 men who understood the same truth that Paul understood. The only person you are supposed to outrun is the person you were yesterday. Anything else is a distraction. So here's my question for you, friend. What is your craft? What is the thing God placed inside you? Not just what you are good at, but what you are. The thing you can do with no audience, no applause, no camera. The thing you would move countries for at age 13. The thing you would train for at midnight when no one sees you and no one calls your name. Some of you know exactly what it is. And you've stopped showing up. Life got loud, you got responsible, you got busy, comparison got loud. You looked at someone else's highlight reel and you started playing their game instead of yours. You started asking, why do they have more followers? Why did they get the promotion? Why is their marriage easier? Why is their business further along than mine? But listen to me. You don't need to be Messi. You don't need to be Ronaldo. You need to be the version of you that shows up tomorrow with more than you that showed up today. That is it. That's the whole game. Your GOAT status is not measured against someone else's. It's measured against your own yesterday. Did you give more? Did you become more? Did you grow more? Did you press forward into what God put in you? That's the only scoreboard that matters. Some of you don't need a new strategy. You don't need a new plan. You need to go back to the craft, back to the early mornings, back to the practice nobody sees, back to the discipline that builds the person before the moment arrives. Because your World Cup is coming. Your stage is coming. Your one touch is coming. And when it comes, the only thing that determines whether you're ready is what you did when no one was watching. Start now. Keep going. Outdo your yesterday. Subscribe to Built for More with Matt Miller for truth that will change your life. Friends, Messi is a GOAT. Ronaldo is a GOAT. And they are both greater. Not because they beat each other, but because they refuse to stop becoming. That, my friend, is the life you were built for. Not to beat someone else, to keep becoming, to press on, to outdo the person you were yesterday, every single day. Thank you so much, friends, for your time. Do have a great day, and bye for now. You say you wanted a different life. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. Why are you fighting so hard to protect this one? You say you want peace, but you keep returning to the same chaos. You say you want a better opportunity, but the moment one appears, you suddenly discover 17 reasons why now isn't the right time. You say you want different relationships, different habits, different results, different future, but almost everything you do is designed to make sure tomorrow looks exactly like yesterday. Why? Maybe it's not because you don't want a different life. Maybe it's because this life has something the life you're asking for doesn't. Familiarity. And sometimes we would rather live with a pain we recognize than walk towards a possibility we don't. Friends, maybe what you've been calling self-sabotage isn't sabotage at all. Maybe you've been protecting yourself. The problem is you're protecting yourself from the very thing you asked for, from the very thing you prayed for. And that's what I want to talk about today. Think about the part of your life you complain about the most. For some, it's your job. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's the business you've talked about starting for 5, 4, 3 years. Maybe it's simply the person you've become. You've said, I can't keep doing this. You've said something has to change. You promised yourself this year will be different, and yet you're still here. Same conversations, same excuses, same patterns, same frustration. And maybe you've started getting angry with yourself. What's wrong with me, you asked? Why can't I just change? Why do I keep going back? But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if you're doing something deeply human? You're protecting what you know. That's the part nobody talks about. We don't always stay because something is good. Sometimes we stay because something is known. And there is a strange comfort in knowing exactly how your pain works. You know what disappoints you. You know how to survive it. You know where the landmines are. You know who you have to become to get through another day. It's kind of painful, but it's predictable. And predictable pain can sometimes feel safer than unpredictable possibilities. I remember hearing about a man who complained about his job for years. Every conversation sounded the same. Oh, they don't appreciate me here. I'm capable of more than what I'm doing. I need to get out of here. One day, I'm going to do something different. Then one day, something different came. A real opportunity, better position, better environment, more room to grow. The kind of opportunity he had been saying he wanted. You would think he would be excited. He wasn't. Suddenly he had 17 reasons why he wouldn't take it. Oh, the commute might be too difficult. What if I don't like the new boss? Maybe this isn't the right time for me to make the move. What if I leave and I regret it? And that's when something became clear. He wasn't protecting his job. He was protecting his certainty. His current job frustrated him, but he knew how to be frustrated there. He knew the people, he knew the politics, he knew how much effort was required. He knew how to survive. The new opportunity, he might have to prove himself again. He might struggle, he might fail. He might discover that he wasn't as ready as he thought. And suddenly, the prison he complained about started feeling like home. Have you ever done that? Have you ever prayed for a door to open, then you stood in the doorway negotiating with yourself about whether you should walk through or not? That's why I want you to stop calling everything self-sabotage. Because sometimes it is misplaced protection. That procrastination may be protecting you from finding out whether your dream will actually work. That people pleasing may be protecting you from discovering who stays when you finally say no. That perfectionism may be protecting you from being seeing, trying. That relationship you keep, you know you've outgrown, will be protecting you from having to sit alone for a while. That job you complain about may be protecting you from becoming a beginner somewhere else. That excuse may be protecting you from responsibility. And suddenly the question changes. The question isn't, why am I ruining my life? The better question is, what am I trying to protect myself from? Failure, rejection, embarrassment, loneliness, disappointing everybody, starting over. Because once you can name what you're protecting yourself from, you can finally decide whether it still deserves that much power over your future. But there's another side of this that we don't talk about enough. Maybe you're not only afraid it won't work, maybe you're afraid that it will work. Because if it works, your life changes. If the business works, you can't keep calling yourself someone who's thinking about starting. Now you're responsible for something. If you get healthy, you lose the excuse you've used to hide all this while. If you finally set boundaries, some people may stop liking you. If you take the opportunity, you might outgrow people you love. If you become the person you've been praying to become, you may no longer fit inside the same room that once felt like home. That's difficult because change doesn't always ask you to gain something. Change asks you to lose something too. Sometimes it's a habit. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's an identity. Sometimes it's people's approval. And sometimes it's the version of you that got you this far. That's why change can feel like grief. You're not only walking towards something new, you're saying goodbye to someone familiar. And maybe that's why you've been standing still. You thought you were afraid of the future, but maybe you're grieving the identity you have to leave behind to reach it. There's a story in the Bible that captures this perfectly. The Israelites spent years crying out to God to get them out of Egypt. They were slaves, they wanted freedom. So God finally got them out. And when the road ahead became difficult, do you know what they start talking about? Going back. Think about that for a second. They wanted to return to the place they had begged God to deliver them from. Why? Because Egypt was terrible, but Egypt was familiar. The wilderness was uncertain. The freedom was uncertain. The promised land required faith. Egypt required nothing new from them. They know the pain. And before we judge them, how many times have we done exactly the same thing? You've asked God for another opportunity. It came, and now you became afraid. You asked for growth. Growth became uncomfortable, and you started missing the old version of yourself. You asked for freedom, but freedom required responsibility, and suddenly the chains didn't look quite as bad as you remembered. Friends, sometimes we ask God for a promised land while quietly keeping an address in Egypt. Oh, we say, just in case. Matt, just in case this doesn't work. Just in case I fail. Just in case Becoming someone new cost me too much. Imagine you've worn the same pair of shoes for 10 years. They're falling apart. The sole is worn. They hurt your feet. Every time you walk a long distance, you complain about them. Then somebody gives you a brand new pair, better shoe, the right size, built for where you're going. You put them on and they feel strange, not painful, just unfamiliar. And suddenly, you're tempted to put back the old one on. Not because they're better, but because they've shaped themselves around who you've become. That's what some of your habits have done. That's what some relationships have done. That's what some environment have done. They've shaped themselves around an older version of you. So of course, the new life feels uncomfortable. It hasn't shaped itself around you yet. You haven't walked in it long enough. You haven't become familiar with peace yet. You haven't become familiar with boundaries yet. You haven't become familiar with discipline yet. You haven't become familiar with being treated well yet. You haven't become familiar with believing in yourself yet. Maybe discomfort isn't always a warning to go back. Sometimes discomfort is simply what new shoe feels like before you walked in them. So I want you to think about your life right now, not someone else's, yours. What are you protecting? What have you complained about? What have you prayed about, cried about, talked about? Promise yourself you will change, and yet you keep defending it. Don't give yourself the polished answer. Go deeper. Maybe you're protecting a relationship because being alone scares you. Maybe you're protecting a job because starting again scares you. Maybe you're protecting procrastination because trying your best and failing scares you. Maybe you're protecting your anger because forgiveness would require you to release the identity of being the one who was wronged. Maybe you're protecting someone else, the expectations they've got, because you don't know who you are without their approval. Maybe you're protecting the old you because you haven't met the new you yet. Friend, listen to me. Listen carefully. You cannot build a different life while remaining loyal to everything that created this one. Something has to change. Not everything today, but something has to change. You said you wanted a different life. I believe you. But different doesn't arrive only because you want it. At some point, something old has to be allowed to end. Maybe it's an excuse. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your need for everybody to understand you. Maybe it's simply the identity you've been carrying because it helped you survive another season. Listen carefully, friend. You don't have to hate the version of yourself to leave it behind. Maybe that version of you did exactly what it needed to do. Maybe it protected you. Maybe it carried you this far. But don't build a house there. Because survival was supposed to get you through something. It was never supposed to become your permanent address. You don't have to know exactly who you're becoming. You don't have to see the entire road. You don't have to feel ready. But you do have to stop fighting to remain who you've been. So the next time that familiar voice says, go back, he says, wait, he says, not yet. He says, stay where it's safe. Remember this, familiar doesn't always mean safe. Uncomfortable doesn't always mean wrong. And the life you're asking for may be waiting on the other side of something you're terrified to release. You said you wanted a different life, so stop auditioning for the old one. If you know exactly what you've been protecting, write this in the comments. I'm ready to release it. Not for Matt, for you. And if you know someone standing at the crossroads, send this video to them. Sometimes people don't need another answer. Sometimes they just need someone to ask them the question they've been avoiding. Thank you so much, friends, for your time. Do have a great day. Bye for now. You know what to do. That's what makes this so frustrating. Nobody needs to explain the next step to you. You already know it. You know the phone call to make. You know the application you need to submit. You know the business you've been talking about starting for long. You know the conversation you've been avoiding. You know the habit you keep promising yourself you're going to change. You've known this for months, maybe years. The plan is not missing. The information is not missing. So why haven't you started? What exactly are you waiting for? Because maybe this isn't simply a discipline problem. Maybe you're not as lazy as you have been calling yourself. Maybe something deeper is happening, and until you recognize it, you can spend years preparing for your life. You never actually begin. Some of you don't need another goal-setting video. You've set the goal 100 times, even 1,000 times. You've bought the planner, you've downloaded the app, you've made the vision board, you've watched the videos, you've listened to podcasts, you've actually written, "This is my year." And for a few days, you felt different, you felt focused, you felt ready. You could almost see the new version of your life, and then nothing changed. A week became a month became 6 months. And now you're looking at something you said mattered to you, and you're asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why can I give advice to everyone else but struggle to follow my own advice? Why can I see exactly what needs to change but still find myself doing the same thing? Why do I keep preparing for something I already know I need to do? Friends, that question matters. It matters because sometimes what looks like procrastination on the outside is protection on the inside. Sometimes something in you may be trying to protect you from what feels more dangerous than staying where you are. Here's the part we don't talk about enough. As long as you're preparing, you can't fail. Think about that for a moment. The business you haven't launched, it hasn't failed. The book you haven't written, it hasn't been rejected. The application you haven't submitted hasn't been declined. The conversation you haven't had hasn't gone badly. The dream that still lives only in your head can still be perfect. As long as it stays in your imagination, it can become anything. But the moment you start, reality gets a vote. Now people can respond. Now somebody can actually say no. Now you can discover that you're not as prepared as you thought. Now you can see, you can even make mistakes. You can be seen trying, and that's uncomfortable to a lot of people. So your mind offers you a safer alternative. Prepare a little longer. Research a little more. Rewrite the plan. Watch one more motivational video. Wait until Monday. Or wait until next month. Wait until the mortgage is paid. Wait until the kids they're done with college. And because you're doing something connected to the goal, it feels productive. But there comes a point where preparation stops being preparation. It becomes hiding. And I want you to hear this carefully. A notebook full of plans is not a life full of change. At some point, planning has to become action. A lot of us have been taught to wait for motivation. We think one morning we're going to wake up and suddenly feel different, feel focused, we'll feel confident, feel fearless, feel ready. So we keep waiting for that feeling. Oh, another quote, another motivational video, another Monday morning, another January, another burst of inspiration. But motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. They come and they go. They change with sleep. They change with stress. They change with circumstances. You can't build your future on a feeling that refuses to keep an appointment. And maybe that's the lie you've believed. When I feel ready, I'll start. But what if readiness isn't something you feel? What if readiness is something you decide? Because most of the things that change your life will ask you to move before you feel completely prepared. You don't become confident and then begin. Very often, you begin and confidence catches up later. Let's look at Moses. Moses stood in front of the burning bush with an assignment that was bigger than him. And what did he do? He started complaining why he wasn't ready. Who am I? Moses said. What if they don't believe me? What if they don't listen? I don't speak well, he said. Excuse after excuse. And notice what God never told Moses. God never said, all right, Moses, take 6 months. Go build your confidence. Or go work on your self-esteem. Come back when you're fully qualified. No. The instruction remained. Go. Moses did not receive confidence before the assignment. He received an assignment while he was still afraid. And somebody needs to hear that tonight. You may be waiting to feel like the person capable of doing the thing you've been called to do. But sometimes you don't become that person first. Sometimes you become that person by doing it. God doesn't need your certainty before you move. He simply needs your willingness. The next chapter cannot be written while you're standing at the doorway asking for proof that you're ready. At some point, you have to walk. There's another reason starting feels so difficult. The familiar always feels safe. Not because it is always good, but because you know it. You know how to navigate it. You know this version of your life. You know this job. You know this routine. You know this frustration. You know this disappointment. You know how to survive it. You know how to game it. The future, you don't know. And that's the strange thing about us. Sometimes we will choose familiar pain over unfamiliar possibilities. Simply because the unfamiliar asks questions we don't know how to answer. Oh, what if I try and fail? What if people laugh What if I discover I am not as good as I thought? What if I start and can't finish? But here's the question we don't ask often. What if you don't start? What if 5 years pass? What if 10 years pass? What if one day you look back and realize the thing that stopped you was not inability but hesitation? What if the greater risk was never failing? What if the greater risk was never finding out? If this feels a little too familiar, if you've ever found yourself preparing for something you knew you needed to begin, subscribe to this channel. Every week we'll talk about decisions, mindset, and life principles that help us stop watching our lives from the sideline and actually move. I've had things in my own list that kept moving, Monday to Monday, week to week. I will write them down, I will circle them, I'll move them to a new page. I'll tell myself, oh, I'm getting ready, I'm getting better. And eventually I had to confront something uncomfortable. I wasn't planning anymore, I was hiding. Because planning allowed me to feel responsible without facing the discomfort of actually doing the thing. And maybe you've done that too. Sometimes procrastination doesn't look like sitting on the couch doing nothing. Sometimes procrastination, it looks like productivity. Sometimes it has spreadsheets, it has notebooks, it has research, it has a perfectly organized to-do list. But the question is simple. Did the thing actually move? Did you get the work done? So how do you break the freeze, you might ask? I'll say not with a bigger goal, not with more pressure, not by insulting yourself. You just need to ask one question. What is the smallest honest step I can take right now towards this goal? I call it the smallest honest step. Not the smallest step that makes you feel busy. The smallest step that actually moves the thing forward, that moves you towards your goal. Don't write the whole book. Just open the document and write one paragraph. That's small enough. Don't start the business. Send the email, make the call, register a business name for a start. Don't get your whole life together. Make the appointment you've been avoiding. Don't repair the entire relationship. Just send the message. Have the conversation. Don't lose 50 pounds today. Put on your shoes and just walk 10 kilometers, 10 miles. Don't figure out your entire career. Submit one application now. Don't solve the next 5 years tonight. Do today's part. Take care of today. Because sometimes your mind isn't resisting the dream. It is resisting everything the dream appears to demand from you all at once. So make the doorway smaller. Make the first step so clear, so simple, so immediate that your fear doesn't have enough room to build a story around it. You do not need to see the whole staircase tonight. You need enough courage for one step. So here's your assignment. Not tomorrow, not on Monday, today. Before you go to sleep, think of the one thing you've been getting ready to do. You already know what it is. You've probably been thinking about it during this entire video. Now ask yourself this question. What is the smallest honest step I can take before today ends? Take it. Small, imperfect, uncomfortable, but real. Because action does something planning can never do. Action gives you evidence. Evidence that you can move. Evidence that fear doesn't control you. Evidence that you don't have to feel ready before you begin. And one small completed step has more power than 100 perfect intentions. Maybe you've spent months calling yourself lazy. Maybe you've told yourself you're behind. Maybe you've wondered why everyone else is doing it and you're trying to get to the same place, but maybe you're not waiting for more information. You're waiting for permission. Permission to begin before you're confident. Permission to start before it is perfect. Permission to take one step without knowing exactly where every step after it will end. So here it is. Start. Because the person who changes your life may not be some future fearless, perfectly disciplined version of you. It may simply be the version of you who finally does what you've been postponing. Before you sleep tonight, take one step. Small, imperfect, honest, but real. Your life doesn't need another promise. It needs movement. Take the step today. If this message blessed you, do not sit on it. Share it with someone that needs to hear it. Remember to click on subscribe so that you know when we post videos and when we go live. Thank you so much, friends, for your time. Thank you for your support. Do have a great day. Bye for now. Can I ask you a question? What if the reason you feel lost right now is not because your life is falling apart? What if it is because the life that used to fit you doesn't fit anymore? Think about that for a moment. Because some of you have been blaming yourself. You have been saying, I should have figured out this by now. I should know what I want by now. I should be further ahead by now. But maybe you don't have a direction problem. Maybe you have an old map problem. You're trying to navigate the person you're becoming with directions written for the person you used to be. And friend, that will make anybody feel lost. Stay with me, because this feeling you've been trying so hard to escape might actually be trying to tell you something. Feeling lost doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes you're still functioning. That's what makes it confusing. You wake up when the alarm goes off. You go to work. You answer the emails. You make dinner. You pick up the kids. You pay the bills. You laugh with people. You say, I'm good. And technically, you are good. You are. Nothing is completely falling apart. But somewhere underneath all of that, something feels wrong. The job you once prayed for suddenly feels heavy. The goal you spent years chasing doesn't excite you the way it used to. The relationship looks the same, but you don't feel like the same person inside of the relationship anymore. You scroll through social media, and everybody seems to be moving. Someone just got promoted. Someone just bought the house on the hilltop. Someone started their business. Someone found their purpose. And you're sitting there thinking, what happened to me? What about me? Friend, you're moving, but you don't know where you're going. You're busy, but you don't know what any of the business is building. And the hardest part is that you can't explain it to anybody. Because how do you tell someone that nothing is terribly wrong, but something is no longer right? That, friend, is what feeling lost often looks like. Now, here's where I want to challenge you. Maybe you're asking the wrong question. You keep asking, how do I get back to who I was? But what if going back is the one thing you're not supposed to do? What if the problem isn't that you lost yourself?